Chicago Fire Season 13 finale saves Kid and Severide's Flailing story with just one show-changing twist. Spoiler alert! The following article contains spoilers from the Chicago Fire Season 13 finale. Stella Kid and Kelly Severide have overcome many obstacles throughout Chicago Fire, but their issue in Season 13 was failing miserably. That is, until the finale. The fan-favorite Firehouse 51 romance is undoubtedly the show's most stable couple. Of course, it's Chicago Fire, so Kid and Severide have still encountered numerous missteps in their relationship. They managed to make it to Season 13 happily married, though. In the latest season, Kid and Severide decided to take a big step, which was exciting at first. But it quickly turned dull. Thankfully, the finale saves this story from being a complete dud. In the Chicago Fire Season 13 finale, Severide races against the clock to prove Chief Pascal's innocence in an attempted murder case. Meanwhile, Kid works to reunite Natalie, a teenager whom the firefighter saved many years ago, with her sister. Both halves of Severide are successful in their independent ventures. By the episode's end, they come home to celebrate their achievements, and in a surprising turn of events, Kid tells her husband something that changes the couple's world. Since the 2025 Chicago crossover, Kid and Severide have been trying to expand their family. They chose to go down the adoption route at first, and they even came quite close to adopting a newborn. Unfortunately, the birth mother changed her mind at the last minute, leaving Kid and Severide walking out of the hospital babyless and heartbroken. Then Chicago Fire Season 13 seemed like it was laying the groundwork for Kid and Severide to adopt Natalie, but the finale dismisses that theory. Instead, Natalie reunites with her sister, and Kid learns she's pregnant. The very last scene of Chicago Fire Season 13 features Kid showing Severide a positive pregnancy test. Severide hugs, kisses, and cries as they bask in their newfound happiness, and the screen fades to black. This pregnancy news comes out of left field, as it appeared as if the couple's parenting journey would always end in adoption. Nevertheless, Kid and Severide are having a baby, which is a wonderful update to the two characters' parenting arc in the NBC procedural drama. Time and time again, Chicago Fire, well, even the entire One Chicago universe, has introduced different variants of the adoption storyline. They all still manage to look the same. As a result, adoption arcs have become repetitive and boring, which is why Kid and Severide's Season 13 plot has been so disappointing. The good news is that the Season 13 finale nips the couple's adoption storyline in the bud. Kid being pregnant offers something fresh to the first One Chicago show. Consequently, Season 14 is all the more exciting. And it needs excitement after the announcement that Carver and Ritter are leaving Chicago Fire after Season 13. Now, Severide fans have something actually worthwhile to look forward to when Season 14 premieres. The circumstances surrounding Kid's pregnancy are also quite intriguing when thinking about what they mean for her and Severide's story in Chicago Fire Season 14. After all, there's only so much that Kid can do as a firefighter while pregnant. Meanwhile, Severide doesn't have to worry about that. During an interview with TV Line, showrunner Andrea Newman teased how the differing gender roles would come into play for the couple. Newman said, "The difference between when a male firefighter gets pregnant and when the female firefighter is pregnant, I think, is really interesting to explore, and how each are affected, and also being parents at the end of the day and the stakes. When they're a couple, there's stakes for sure, but when they've got a baby, the stakes go through the roof. So those are all the things that we can play with going down the line." Based on Newman's comments, Kid and Severide's reinvigorated baby storyline will come with many challenges in Chicago Fire Season 14. Kid is Truck 81's leader. She likely won't be okay with being relegated to desk duty due to her pregnancy. Ultimately, fans must wait until Chicago Fire Season 14 to see how Kid and Severides have been holding their collective breath, watching the once fiery dynamic between Stella Kidd and Kelly Severide cool into a confusing, distant simmer. What was once one of the most magnetic, emotionally rich relationships in the One Chicago universe had drifted into a fog of missed conversations, professional distance, and conflicting priorities. And just when it seemed like the show might quietly let the dew fade apart, the Season 13 finale delivered one unexpected, show-changing twist that turned everything around and possibly set the tone for Chicago Fire's most emotionally satisfying arc yet. It wasn't a grand romantic gesture. It wasn't a fiery rescue that brought them together in a life-or-death moment. No, the twist was far more grounded, but infinitely more powerful. Stella Kidd asked for a transfer, and Severide followed her without hesitation. The episode had been building to something all along. Early scenes hinted at the growing tension between them. Stella was frustrated, disconnected not just from Severide, but from her role at Firehouse 51. She'd been sidelined emotionally ever since Severide took that extended arson investigator assignment, and even after his return, things hadn't felt right. She confronted Bowden in his office midway through the episode with a calm but decisive tone. "Chief, I think I need a change. A new challenge. Somewhere I'm not just Severide's wife." Bowden, ever the anchor of 51, raised an eyebrow. "You're not just anyone's anything, kid. But if you're sure..." The scene cut before she responded. Meanwhile, Severide, usually so composed, was visibly shaken when he caught wind of Kid's request. Instead of getting angry, he did something shocking. He listened. He reflected. And in a moment of raw vulnerability we haven't seen since the early seasons, he cornered Kid at Molly's later that night. "You didn't tell me," he said quietly. "I couldn't," she admitted, "because I didn't know if you care." That line was the blow that hit fans in the chest, and finally the wake-up call that snapped Severide into action. The next scenes moved fast. Kid was reassigned to another house, Engine 127, on the city's west side, a place with a reputation for being rougher, grittier, and more in need of leadership. Stella took it head-on. But the real twist came when the battalion chief announced during roll call that they'd be receiving a new squad lieutenant to help stabilize the station. You guessed it, Kelly Severide stepped into frame. No advance warning. No dramatic declarations. Just a quiet nod in Stella's direction and one line. "Figured it was time I stopped running from the things that matter." The fandom exploded. What made this twist work wasn't that it was flashy, it was that it felt earned. The show had spent all season showing cracks in their marriage, not in a soap opera kind of way, but in a slow-burn, realistic portrayal of two people trying to reconcile individual ambition with shared dreams. Stella had matured, taken on leadership, become a role model to younger women in the CFD. Severide, by contrast, had spiraled a bit. His work in arson had consumed him, but it had also left him drifting. For months, viewers had asked, is Severide even part of the main show anymore? The finale finally answered, yes, and he's ready to prove it. But the real genius was this. By moving both characters to a new firehouse, the writers created a clean slate. A space where Stella and Kelly could rediscover each other outside the familiar halls of 51, where they wouldn't be constrained by old roles, old dynamics, or the shadows of who they used to be. It's not just a relationship reset. It's a career and identity reboot, too. There were other plot lines in the finale, of course. Cruz wrestling with his future at 51, Ritter making a life-altering decision, and Bowden facing a surprise retirement rumor. But all of them paled in comparison to the emotional impact of Kid and Severide's joint departure. Their last moments at Firehouse 51 were handled with quiet dignity. No teary goodbyes, no long-winded speeches. Just Stella turning off her locker light, Severide taking one last glance at the Squad 3 truck, and a simple walk out the door together. That one visual, a literal and metaphorical departure, may go down as one of the series' most powerful images to date.